Mm,
Hundreds of people have seen my dad and seen my mom.
mm.
Hundreds of people have seen my dad and seen my mom. My mom. Welcome to another episode of Angels, Positivity, and Love. Incredible guests the world over with incredible expertise, life experiences, wisdom, insights, and a lot of love, high vibe to share with all of us. We've had more than 2 years worth of guests come on, and they've been fantabulous. Please check out the show. One thing you might not know if you only checked in for the first part is guests often take steps on air, off air with angels and other universal loving figures. It's not a must to be on the show, but just you can participate in this. Chat with an angel, feel an angel, get a hug, or at least catch the scent of lit sage. And that usually happens at the end of the show. So you actually do want to stick around. Please share, comment, like, subscribe. And we have someone coming back on who's been on a few mind, body, spirit panels and other parts of our programming here at the channel. Dr. Iya Whiteley out of the UK, space aviation psychologist, but so much more. She's been on the BBC. She also has been experiencing different modalities, healing modalities, you could call it, or just vibrational modalities from different countries, cultures, and so on. She loves teaching others. It could be breath work. Her focus, though, is on children and their ability to contribute to mankind's development. She's very focused in the big picture on humankind, but also our children and how much potential they have in them already existing. And she's here to help them unlock what they've already got. Iya, I probably can't do it the right way for your introduction, but I tried. You're amazing at what you do. You're super eloquent. I'm grateful to have you back on. Good to see you again.
Good to see you. Thank you, Michael. It's always a delight and literally the light rather than delight.
We've been playing for over an hour and never even got started recording. So here we are. It'll be a super short show today. I'd like to tackle the what used to be the $64 million question. We'll have to make it the $1 billion question today with inflation and everything else. What is going on with mankind? There's something called consciousness that we can really maybe interact with the universe in a broader way. It's been around forever in all these indigenous cultures, religious, philosophical, Tibetan Buddhism, and so on. How do you like to describe this ability to have the awareness of a newborn baby in any given moment?
That's beautiful. I think you've answered the question just now. It's it feels like when the babies come and we are given this opportunity time and time again, and globally, every second, we are given the gift of a newborn for us to just remember. So the idea is, as I can see, and I am opening this discussion with moms and parents and grandparents very much so, that once you realize that there is wisdom or just some quietness that allows us to be quiet and somehow dive quite deep into awareness of purity, clarity, abundance, benevolence, and also resilience, considering the small, tiny baby. But it feels like these qualities are repeatedly given to us so that we can interact and feel and see, and more so that we could feel these qualities manifest in us. So children allow us, and in fact, no matter the age, I mean, newborns, it's just more prominent, but we then embody and we transmit and translate and learn to emanate different spectra of these qualities. And I feel this is part of our learning and growing and embodying this consciousness that is potentially experiencing itself, but it's allowing us to ride on that vibration and feel these qualities not being given externally, but the children come as a reminder so we can then almost come up to standing or come up to realization that we don't need to receive it out. We are transmitting because we have something in front of us that requiring or not even asking, because the babies, they don't really ask apart from necessities of being human. And these are the qualities I feel projected, and they become more and more mm, through us becoming more aware and more realized in our potential. We could see that we can transmit and actually allow for the field to open up around us, and people start to feel that quality too. So this is what I feel consciousness is manifesting or allowing us to remember, because we were all once children. We were all very small, and we have experienced a variety of feelings. Perhaps we did have those moments of benevolence, and some had very different quality, but nevertheless kept the nurturing inside that we're able to then still tap into internal capacity and listen quietly. It's not even intently, it's more. I find that this newborn generation allows us to get into the state that Eastern studies or Eastern philosophies and traditions teach us. So just by imagining holding a newborn, it could be, an animal. It doesn't have to be, and it could be also a baby that you wish you could be holding, but it's that presence that then invoke us, the best of what we are, in a way, to come forth. And that's how I feel this consciousness is allowing us to come back to its essence. And that's what, to me, it sounds like people are describing when they have near-death experience, or when they touch an angel, or they have a transformative spiritual experience that is hard to put into words, but it's very visceral, very experiential. I hope I'm answering the question.
You are. And here and now is something that's been referred to from Ram Dass in those days to Eckhart Tolle to Lynn McTaggart with the field and all her studies and books and so on. She'll be a guest, or she was a guest earlier in 2025, I think in June. What I'm going to do is read a quote, though. And what specific experience would you like to share with us from the past decade where you've had a moment of stillness or interaction with consciousness that was special for you? It could be one way, another, dream time, something though that you would like to share. And I'm going to buy you time to think about this with a quote. I'm not sure where it came from. I thought it was Karl Hammerschlag from Dancing Healers or The Theft of Spirit. He's since passed over. Beautiful 2 books if people want to check it out. It's on the website, suggested reading. Here's the quote. In American society, we think something is happening when there is talking. In Native American tribes, something is happening when there is silence. And so, what can you share with us that cuts right through it all, where you had an interaction with the universe that was special?
So I find, for me, the beautiful way to come to this presence that I I really want to embody more and more is, just it's something to kind of to bridge from what I just said, is that the babies, when we hold them, we acquire the state that is taught by, through hours, possibly years, or a lifetime of meditation. And but we only get a glimpse. But you only need a glimpse, to actually touch and then to embody it. The other practice for me, or the other 2 practices, was through family constellation learning and also practicing. I found that people feel just like what you're doing, Michael, often, is that you allow for people, for their answers to come through them, so that they have inner knowing, which is really, you could also say that we traditionally describe as belief, but sometimes who can't articulate the belief. And when people viscerally experience that and they get a confirmation from somebody externally to say, yes, you're describing my father. How could you know? and or yes, this is exactly what I wished to hear, but I've never heard my mother say, or something where the people somehow have a missing part, or in North American tradition, they say it's a lost piece of the soul. So when something tragic or traumatic happens, like it is considered that the piece of the soul either got left behind or stolen or lost or frozen or hiding. And so there are journeys to find them. And so for me, that family constellation, I was going to, we were experimenting, I would say, to look how can we experience our higher self or the soul or what is beyond the body. And and it was our final year that we were learning. And she said, there will be this one special sessions that we will have. And I've been waiting for it for a long time. And then she said, okay, today is the day. And I was just, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And she said, we're going to walk towards our soul to meet our soul. Some people, have a different description. As I say, there could be 1,000 ways to describe it. And so our teacher was standing as a spirit, or my spirit, and I am to walk towards and just remain in this listening space, just as what you said, in the native in North American native or native tradition. And as I was walking, I felt like something. It's in broad daylight, and something started to lift, like as if nobody else was present in the room in the capacity that I'm used to. So the quality has changed. And I kept walking, and I'm fully present in realizing that something is shifting. And I'm just trying to, come to realization what is shifting, what is different. Because I know that when I before stood with my intellectual capacity in the roles, and and something would come in and I would judge it out. So that was a really good training school into verbalizing the experience, because the experience is the communication to me. And so I was just almost like listening to this new language. I would put it that way. And as I was walking closer, she started to become brighter. And again, I haven't experienced that. It's sort of like when the sun comes out behind a tree, but you're not expecting it, that it should be there. Maybe the clouds parted suddenly after the rain or something like that. But suddenly she becomes brighter and brighter. And above her, I can see a field of light, just a tremendous, very visceral, very, I would say, physical to me. And I felt so elated, like as if you ever jumped on the trampoline or dove into the water, and when you jump on the trampoline and you go to this neutral point when you're just about to come back, or when you dive into the water, uh, and uh, and you feel the bubbles that come up, and you feel very light, like you feel like you're not walking on the ground. And I suddenly felt this, like I would probably, there was even a sound or like a pop sound, but it was like a sudden clarity of and tears started streaming without having a particular connection or emotion, and it felt like home. Like I've heard people describe that, but it's how else could you put it? It just felt so natural, so and the quality of home, or one of the qualities, was that there was no hiding, there was no need to think through what to say. There was everything and everyone knew the same knowing, and and there was so much acceptance, connection, presence, and I am not giving it justice, uh, but it is like when, often as a psychologist, something that people, come and would tell them, yeah, just be yourself, just, talk as you wish just now, what does feel comfortable for you right now. But that really felt like I really knew who I was. And it was so, um, there was there was no label. I couldn't say I am it or I am that or I am all of it, but it was just delight. There was just presence of knowing that there's, I guess this is what there's a tradition of Tao tradition. We way they say then there's no need for effortless, well, it's an effortless action, but in a way it's from that benevolence comes the next step from your open-hearted and openness, purity and benevolence. You just make the next step, whatever is in front of you, just respond to the universe. And and it just felt that there wasn't a need to do anything, but everything was open. There wasn't a need to be somebody, but you were just it. And what is interesting, and I have come across with people who have had experiences that are transformational for them or shifting, I guess. And so and you could ask any question, but you have no questions because it's that you don't even have an idea to ask a question because everything is clear, everything is known. And and then I was on such a it was hard to reconstruct why we're here. After that experience, it's hard to come back into that presence of roles that you have to kind of go back into the shell, you know, and start pinning all of these jackets. And and so it was quite challenging for a while of how to reconstruct. Why would we let go of that? It's almost like the space cracks open and you get that glimpse. And it is and I think it's the idea is that we're touched in a way to make the next step. And so to arrive and be in that silence, to do the next juncture. So yeah, so that was one experience that I think it's there is an Eastern wisdom that talks about that you only need a moment, but it might take a lifetime to arrive to that moment. So, and and all of our experience makes sense backwards. It's suddenly, it almost feels like, and at that point, we almost like can let go as soon as all of the steps made sense for our mind, we can let go of that calculation or understanding making sense. And as soon as the making sense comes off, there I feel like this consciousness or presence is more, we're more embodying it. That's how I would describe it.
Each person out there watching is on their journey right now, whether they know it or not, or whatever they think their situation is. My problem is to, oh, the universe is really big. I've got all these experiences going on. And I want to throw out a different thing because I want to have you address what each person's opportunity is day to day or in moment to moment. But I
Mhm.
want to mention one Native American bit of wisdom. It's not about the words. And so I want to throw this quote out because one Native American chief on the other side once said, There's no such thing as silence. There's only stillness, parsing it further. And I was like, whoa. Okay, what's this all about again for each of us? Is it the journey from the head to the heart? Is it something else? How do you, Iya, like to describe it?
Um, well, I have heard many variations, and I like that um, stillness. It is that. It's almost so I experienced that in this rebirth breath work. Uh, it's where I find I can almost to find that space that is very, very challenging. I find that in our busy life to find for meditation space. Some people have the discipline, and but until I have experienced this breath work, I found that I can I felt that the breath is actually the essence that allows us to, well, for us to become alive, for one, because we do activate, if you wish, with the first breath and then deactivate with the last. And it's the last thing that leaves our body too, which is interesting, even in the Eastern traditions when they describe as elements leave one after another. And I find that the more still we can become through breath, we find the moment of this contemplation where the next step arises naturally. And I think it is a journey, but really it's in the step in that stillness, just as you described. And it comes from um, without, without concepts, without judgment, without roles, and without um, heading somewhere. And I think we're still using this word journey because we have this time component. And it's fashionable. I don't know what to say. But really, it is in that piercing stillness. I like that. I think I feel that description quite prominently just now. And it's to me, that's when the life happens. That's when the breath gets activated. That's when we get the answer. It's not about, you don't get the answer in the past, you don't get the answer in the future, but all the potential is described, by many masters about here and now. And it's almost like overused because we all say it, I'm mindful and I'm here and now. But how do we do it? How does each of us experience that? And so I found that I could do that either through water, through diving in water in stillness when you also, by the way, hold your breath, or through connecting with your breath through many sessions. Then suddenly the breath becomes a life force. And then by moving it in the moment, you can find that stillness. And as a child, I remember I used to time myself how much I can hold my breath because I used to do a lot of swimming, and it was speed swimming where you had to go with one fin, like a dolphin, and we had to hold breath for the entirety of the pool in order to make the speed or the time. And I would sit and I time myself, and I would, 3, 5 minutes would go by, and I'm still not breathing. And I could never make up, was I breathing? Was I actually breathing? So I was asking myself, or am I actually holding breath? So, but as a child, I have a memory, but I don't remember. With my adult mind, I can't convince myself that I would not be able to breathe for that time. But it was that was the most um, moments like being home of holding in that space. And because as soon as we go out of that moment, we have expectations, duties, roles, responsibilities, achievements, expectations, and we still can have that as a picture that we're interacting with, but remembering of making the step from this space. Because yeah, so I guess I think you answer questions before you ask them. That's what I find.
Well, a famous Native American chief, Geronimo, once said, many questions, just one answer. What's that answer, Iya? Is it the heart? Is it being? Is it letting go, not knowing so much up here? What's the way you would like to share that with the audience?
Mhm.
Any questions, just one answer.
Um, well, I think all questions are directed inwards, are a helpful inquiry. So, sort of like what I don't think, I think it would be appropriate for that moment for the person, whatever that may be, but it is for looking for what can I do now rather than why it has happened to me or something like that. So when we're starting to look for a reason, we run away with our head and we know it's helpful for our societal component and but in terms of our um, presence and finding out these questions that are very deep inside, uh, I think we can only get science, but the actual knowing is inside. So any question directed inwards, um, without blame and concept and roles. So it's more like very childhood like,
Hmm.
what is that? Um, more qualitative description.
Well, I have a saying. Let's see if I can find it though quickly. Um, there's a beautiful India saying. What I'll do is get you talking in just a second about something else. Which, how about this? Do angels exist? And then can you just explain how do you know? I'm going to find something while you're answering. Boy,
Um,
do angels exist?
well, it's touching on belief systems, and I find that it continuously evolves for me. And I feel my mind has definitions that I have read, and I am more fascinated. And by being fascinated, I'm curious, and I really want to understand how other people experience the world. So I ask these questions and see. I'm more interested in when people describe their personal experience of connecting and how did that feel for them, rather than an angel drawn, for example, in the historical books that are of religious texts. Because you might be familiar with Diana Pasulka's work, so professor of religious studies, and so the diaries of the people who wrote their experience, it's not like it is redacted by the texts that are then released to the public or to the audience of that church. And um, and that's what is interesting to me. So just like yourself talk about the bright lights as angels, and there is a beautiful, um, just trying to remember, but there are stories of abduction where people have experience of what people would describe, it would be like an alien abduction. But there are other people who would be in a similar situation, and they would have a spiritual experience. And it's I find that is quite interesting. So that's why it's hard for me to define, because I can't say that I've experienced an angel. I have a feeling, and I'd like to dive deeper. I'd like to know what is it. And I think it's more exquisite if when somebody describes it and you feel it, the recognition, and that recognition is more speaking to me more rather than what I would have relied earlier on concepts, I guess, that I have read before from a source that I trust.
If Diane's watching, I think we've sent her an invite to be on the show. It might be a couple more years of other guests coming on, and we've got to get established more before she gets a yes to us. We'll see. We'll have to wait and see which way this goes. I was looking for an old India expression from maybe 786 AD. I don't know when, from
Mm.
Siddha Katrapa. And then I didn't know how to operate my iPhone photos with the new update. So I hit the wrong button, had music playing, and it was in a panic. That's a first on the show. But here is a quote that I randomly wrote down in 1992. I was just out of college in New York City. I had this equivalent of a diary. It wasn't a diary. I put all these quotes in that decades later, 16 years later, I was still wondering what it was all about. I was left with the concept of non duality, not knowing what it was. But here's that quote, and you reminded me of this previously, the prior question. Whatever the yogin sees is his instruction and realization that all he sees is unborn. That is the most excellent guru. Innocence is the way to realize non duality, for here the effects of virtue and vice are one. Now, I'm not asking you to analyze that or anything like that, but what comes to mind or what comes to heart when you hear that?
Yes, so it is duality is also a fashionable topic, I would say, at the moment. And what I mean fashionable is that people have a recognition of it, and I very much interested on how people describe it. And then I want to go viscerally into it to understand where they have experienced that again and what it felt like. And reconciling the duality is where the mind, I find, starts to engage and we get lost and we forget that piercing stillness. So, as when we engage with duality, that's when I feel this is a sign of walking away. So it's almost like the intellectual discussion takes us away from presence and practice. And possibly that quote comes from that quality of unborn. And there is a Nisargadatta Maharaj who talks about also non-duality and being unborn and being I am that. I think is his famous. It's not his book, but it's a book written about his talks that he gave to the public, and he wouldn't call himself a teacher. And so he later on, in a way, retracts that I'm that. But he does talk about describing the qualities, but then he says that Atman, which is also a reference to something that's beyond consciousness, is a space that doesn't have qualities. That's why it's hard to talk about this. So as soon as we start to compare, we have lost the ability to connect to consciousness, as far as I can gather through contemplation and experience. So, yeah, it is, in a way, there is a gorgeous teacher that I'm learning from the breathwork, which is Dan Brule. He has get that over 50 years of breathwork experience, and he's extraordinary. And the other day, somebody asked him, what happens beyond uh, passing beyond death. So, and there was an expectation in that question. There was a preamble, and we are almost like looking for confirmation. And when we look for confirmation, we have lost the openness and we have lost the stillness and we have lost the listening or that capacity of the newborn that is completely open to receptivity. So nothing is wired in yet. So it's all pure essence and presence and experience. And and to me, in a way, beautifully, Dan said, "Is just wouldn't it be nice to find out when it happens?"
I
and
love that.
and and because our mind runs away with that as well, and then we're not here. So So any, our talks, although we have no, well, I haven't found another way to kind of to contemplate and open up the space for further questions. But somewhere there are people who are able to be in the quiet and have the knowing that actually they don't have the need to share, which is a bit sad in a way, because it would be beautiful to know. But some experience and some of my previous work was in nonverbal knowing, not just nonverbal communication, but it's the knowing that you actually don't know you have. So these are professional experts like surgeons and pilots, and I know engineers that I've worked with that they know what to do, but they can't teach it. And because it's two different skills, teaching and actually doing, the work without realizing your expertise. And I'm interested in that, something that is still beyond words, something that we can embody. And you and I would agree that we understood, but we have no need to explain it. And it might be a very different perspective, but it's almost being like in the same space, in space, same wavelength. Frequency is often the word used, but it's again coming back to that, holding the newborn when you are completely open to receptivity, whatever may come. And I think this is the biggest challenge for humanity, you know, to be present and be benevolent in being present without expecting that something bad or good will come, but just be benevolent in your next moment, in your next moment, in the next moment.
Grow your awareness, not your thinking. But you covered so much in this that I'm going to unpack just a couple little tidbits, and then we're going to maybe do some experiential stuff and then wrap it up. There's the movie Peaceful Warrior, gymnastics film. It looks like Disney made it. The book is Way of the Peaceful Warrior with Dan Millman, but it's Nick Nolte, the gas station attendant, sort of like a Mr. Miyagi figure, like Karate Kid, but it's an adult Karate Kid film. Very spiritual. You'd never know it. You'd think it's just a sports film. And
Hmm.
at one point, the gas station attendant has this Berkeley gymnast, Dan Millman. It took place in the 60s, but this was made in 2006. So it's a modern day setting. He's questioning the gas station attendant who's talking about giving service to others. There's no higher calling, but they're at the windshield wipers of the car of the person who's filling up their petrol tank. And, they want their windshield clean. And he said, do you know the difference between knowing and wisdom? Knowing is knowing, wisdom's actually doing it. And I thought that was interesting. I wanted to mention the finger pointing to the moon is not the moon. Eckhart Tolle, Buddha, everyone has an expression like that. And you were touching on it beautifully. And then Dan Brule is going to be a guest. I'm not sure when. He's signed up. His daughter may or may not be joining him. And so he'll be a guest. I think it might be early 2026 if people want to check out Dan Brule. So that'll be phenomenal, fantastic. I hope everyone's
Yes,
joined.
totally.
Yeah, so that'll be exciting. Sometimes I get guests on, though, who only off camera will take a step. One guest once did stuff on air, but then we had to retape everything. So it's better they stay anonymous and have a normal interview. But most guests, I think 90-95%, take steps on air. And that's where we're at right now. I normally blow a little bit of sage, put up an angel photo, and then whoosh. I'm going to do it backwards today, all in under a minute and a half. But with your permission, I'm going to put my hand up in Texas. You're in the UK. And feel what you can feel. Don't judge at home. You can feel this as well. Only love and above, not my bill paying side. I got to go back to that person in just 15 minutes. Okay, what do you feel? And I'll whoosh like a ping pong paddle. Iya, what are you feeling in England in just a second?
I feel a lot of vibration actually today. Very powerful.
And are you going to blame angels? Are you going to blame the universe, consciousness, stillness? Or are you going to blame little old me, the show host? Or all the above? E.
I think we're creating a field.
We're outstanding in the field or our field with sunflowers. I love that. Okay, now I'm going to put up two angel photos, Joy and Min. And if you don't mind catching either vibe, flowers, sunflowers, a reminder for us all, if we can be so bold, or just good vibes. Which way are you feeling them? Two angels, actual historical photos, whatever you want to call it. They've moved before. So what will you allow for at home? This is a great time to put an emoji in the comments if you're shy. An emoji is a perfectly fine comment. Give us a thumbs up or a smiley face, a unicorn, a rainbow, your call. What are you getting, Iya, from Joy and Min?
I'm having static. Um, it's audio, static audio.
Like all of a sudden, your audio, you're getting static?
Yeah, yeah,
That's a
just
first.
awareness of pressure.
I love it. And then I'm going to light some sage. Good old American sage. You can find it on my website. And I finally became an Amazon affiliate, whatever that means, so that if you buy that sage through the channel, you go to my website, actually. Sorry. Go to my website. This is Juniper Ridge Sage. It's in all the Whole Foods. I guess they tip you or something like that. This is great sage, though. I love it. Very consistent. I've been using it for 14 years. They have great incense sticks. I should be sponsored by them. I'm not. I'm working on it. And I love blowing sage through two screens. Why not? There's like a lot less time and space. Distance isn't what we think it is. What will you allow for is the real rub daily for all of us. Welcome to being human and having a brain. But as Winnie the Pooh says, the big brain, not so important. Big heart, yes. He didn't quite say that. But how do you spell love? You don't spell love, you feel it. That's what he really said. Okay, I'm blowing sage your way. I'm even blowing sage your way. You catching flowers, sage, extra tingle. Which way are you getting it, Ia?
I'm just getting more of that audio for some reason, which is also unusual for me. It's so if it was before with a pressure, but now it feels more like orbital, like a
Hmm.
spatial, rather than so it acquired like a shape, like an orb shape. Yeah.
I love it. And I'll try to put up that light that streaked across the screen before we started the
Oh
broadcast.
yes,
And I'm
yes.
going to share a 30-second personal story that ties into what you just said to buy you time for your concluding statement in just a moment to close out the podcast. But I was running the Boston Marathon. I've been a runner for 40 something years and run a lot of races. But I was signed up for the Boston Marathon. I'm going to guess 2010 or something. I knew I was sick and I still went. Like, not a stubborn runner. I was very flexible. I knew I was going to probably drop out at the halfway point, and I was running a phenomenal pace. But being sick with whatever I had, I knew I had to drop out. So I did. And I didn't beat myself up for one moment about it. I did great. I had a fun time. I got on the JetBlue flight to go back to Austin, Texas from Boston. And that was when I saw auras on every other person. But I had something else happen. Pressure, like you're at 35,000 feet, airplane pressure, that was happening for the next few months on and off. And it was the universe just trying to get me to pay attention. So, of course, I went to an ear, nose, throat doctor. I've told that story on other shows. So I'm going to skip that part. But I got checked out for my hearing. I had wolf like hearing. Everything was fine. The second I got out of the doctor's office and sat in my car to put the car key in for the ignition, it came right back. And it was kind of like saying hello. So it was just the universe trying to box my ears to get me to slow down a little, pay attention a little more. Now, I've bought all the time in the world for you right now. What's the quick reminder or beautiful reminder or fun reminder from your heart to everyone watching that you would like to leave us with on this particular show?
I think when we are stuck, um, imagine you have a baby in your arms. And go back to that quote about piercing stillness. Just experience that magnificence that somehow our bodies are able to create and then nourish and know exactly in what order what has to happen. And just for a tiniest speck, wonder. And then come out of it and do whatever you've been doing. Just dive into that um, pure magic, pure magnificence, pure knowing that just unfolds at trillion speed of the infinitesimal and infinite. It collides both directions. So just be in that moment to appreciate what happens just in this tiny space, and this person may affect millions of lives forever going forward.
I love it. Iya Whiteley, thank you very much for being with us and for sharing your presence and so many insights. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. I appreciate it. Always, always grateful for the little insights that you get through your work as well. Keep doing it.
Thank you again.
Thank you.